What if the first 10 minutes of your morning held the secret to how the rest of your life unfolds? What if, instead of rushing into chaos, you stepped into stillness and found power there? And what if everything you've been looking for, clarity, focus, strength, was waiting in the silence you usually ignore? Each morning is more than a routine, it's a reset, a quiet invitation before the noise of the world invades. In that sliver of peace, when the light is soft and your thoughts haven't yet been shaped by headlines or notifications, you hold something sacred, a choice. Not a passive one, not the kind you make unconsciously, but an intentional, powerful act, choosing awareness over distraction. Calm over reaction, purpose over pressure, and self-mastery over being ruled by life's randomness. The ancient Stoics knew this deeply. They understood the unmatched potential of the morning, the opportunity to set the tone for everything that followed. They didn't wake up and leap into their day like warriors being chased. They paused. Before diving into duty, they asked themselves, how will today challenge me? And rather than respond with motivational hype or vague promises, they prepared with discipline, with clarity, with presence. They didn't guess, they grounded themselves. Today, modern science validates what the Stoics practiced. Studies confirm that the first moments of your day impact everything from emotional regulation to focus, productivity, and long-term decision-making. When timeless philosophy meets neuroscience, something powerful happens: a roadmap to presence, a method for entering your day, not just awake, but aware. That's what this video is about. Not another self-help checklist, not a fake promise to become someone else, but a reminder of who you already are beneath the noise. A path back to yourself. In today's video, I'll guide you through 10 Stoic practices you can start every morning. Simple, grounded, proven rituals. Tools to begin your day with strength, clarity, and composure. Not to impress anyone, but to move with intention, no matter what comes your way. Let's start with practice 1. The value of mindfulness. Mornings are sacred, not because they're quiet, but because they haven't been claimed yet. The day hasn't tugged at your sleeve. The world hasn't demanded your energy. Your phone is still silent. Your responsibility is still waiting. And in that space, something rare appears: a return to self. It's in this opening, as the first rays creep across your room and your breath is slow and unhurried, that you're invited to notice. To wake up not just from sleep, but from the sleepwalking of habit. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This isn't just a gentle nudge toward gratitude. It's a direct call to consciousness. You're alive. You're here. So choose how you'll live. And that choice begins with awareness. Not the kind that comes from reading affirmations or checking boxes, but the kind that pauses and asks, how do I feel right now? What thoughts are shaping me before the day even begins? What matters today? When you have answers to these, your actions become clear. You're no longer pulled into someone else's urgency. You're no longer hijacked by every buzz or emotion. That's why the Stoics didn't start with doing. They started with observing. They journaled. They sat in silence. They took inventory of their mind before trying to shape the world. In today's overstimulated society, that's not just wise, it's rebellious. To sit still, to think for yourself, to decide how you'll show up today, before the world tells you who to be. Take Caliban, a man caught in the grip of modern pressure, deadlines, endless emails, back-to-back meetings. His mornings used to start with his phone in one hand and coffee in the other, scrolling through other people's lives while ignoring his own. He didn't feel grounded. He felt pulled. But that all began to shift. And in the next part, you'll see how. Because what changed Caliban's life wasn't a complete overhaul, which was one subtle but powerful shift. Let's dive into that next. In the last part, we began to understand the value of stillness, Quiet morning space where awareness can awaken before the world begins to pull us in. Now, let's see what happens when that awareness is put into practice through a real, human moment. Recently, Calvin made a commitment to himself. Nothing grand, no dramatic overhaul, just one deliberate shift in his morning. Every day, before he picks up his phone, before emails or texts flood his mind, he gives himself exactly 10 minutes. 10 minutes of complete stillness, sitting quietly in his living room. No distractions, no background noise, just him and his breath. In those moments, he's not trying to achieve anything. He's not meditating in the formal sense or aiming to become more productive. He's simply being present, watching the rhythm of his breath, noticing how his body feels, letting thoughts rise and fall without judgment. And during one of those quiet mornings, something interesting happened. He realized he was still carrying the weight of yesterday, a nagging feeling from an unresolved email, the echo of tension from a difficult meeting. Nothing obvious, but it lingered like static in the background of his mind. But instead of pushing it aside or trying to distract himself, he simply noticed it. He acknowledged the anxiety. He named it, and in doing so, he disarmed it. That single moment of recognition kept him from carrying that tension into the rest of the day. He stayed calm. He moved forward with clarity. That's the real benefit of awareness. It's not a magical cure, but it gives you the power to pause, to observe, and to choose a response, rather than fall into a reaction. Awareness is the first step towards self-mastery. You can't manage your emotions if you're not even aware they exist. You can't live with intention if you haven't examined what's guiding your choices. You can't lead, teach, or even connect deeply with others if you don't understand what's going on inside yourself. That's why, before your day picks up speed, before the meetings begin, before the demands start piling up, you need to stop, even just for a moment, and ask, what's happening inside me right now? The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't pretend life would be easy. They didn't teach that challenges could be avoided, but they did believe this. Every day is an opportunity to meet life fully, deliberately, and clearly. And that opportunity begins in the morning. The first hour isn't a boring prelude to the real day. It's your launchpad, your mental foundation. If it's strong, the rest of the day can shake, but you won't collapse. Too often, we look for motivation in quick fixes, a coffee hit, a favorite song, someone's encouraging words. But those fade. The truest, most lasting motivation doesn't come from the outside. It comes from inside, from knowing yourself, from being honest about where you stand and where you want to go. And awareness unlocks that. When you start that day understanding your feelings, your energy, and your intentions, you don't just get through the day, you live it with power. That's what awareness gives you. Choice. In a world that rushes you into reacting, awareness lets you respond. It keeps you grounded, focused, steady. But here's the next question. What if you wake up and you're not calm? What if instead of clarity, you feel overwhelmed by fear, anger, or sadness? What do you do when negative emotions greet you first? That's where we go next, because awareness is just the beginning. The next step, learning how to face your emotions, not fear them, not hide them, but manage them with wisdom. Coming up, practice to accepting and controlling emotions. And we'll begin with something familiar to all of us. The moment you open your laptop and read that one email, the kind that tests everything you've been working on. In the last section, we discovered how identifying our emotions early creates a foundation for calm. Now, we step deeper into Stoic wisdom, how to consciously choose our response to life's challenges. Epictetus, the renowned Stoic philosopher, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." These words aren't just abstract advice, they're a precise mental blueprint for handling everyday situations. Because in any moment, whether you're dealing with life's unfairness, hurt from misunderstandings, or an unexpected loss, you retain one fundamental choice: how you respond. Yes, events may hurt you. They may anger or disappoint you. But your response, that internal choice to react calmly or erupt emotionally, always remains within your control. Let's unpack how this works in real life. First, acceptance isn't surrender. It doesn't mean succumbing to negative emotions. Rather, it means acknowledging them without apology. When you feel rage, sorrow, or shame rising up, the Stoics taught you simply name those feelings. I'm angry, I'm hurt, I feel betrayed. Then comes the pivotal question. Now that I've recognized this and not denied or suppressed it, what will I do next? That very moment between feeling triggered and choosing your response is the birthplace of emotional mastery. That pause, however brief, gives you power. Power to choose clarity over chaos, action over anger, wisdom over impulse. Let's return to a scenario we mentioned earlier. Receiving a hostile email. Imagine this situation. You wake up, sip your coffee, then opened your inbox. There it is. An email laced with sharp tone, criticism, maybe even personal jabs. Your heart pounds, your skin flushes. Your first instinct is to retaliate, to fire off a fiery response that only escalates the conflict. But here's the Stoic choice. Pause, breathe, reread, recognize that yes, the email rattled you. That's natural, but your reaction is still yours to shape. Instead of reacting, you craft a calm, fact-based reply that addresses the issue. Without aggression, you chose reaction with purpose, not reactivity for drama's sake. This is not a one-time trick. It's a muscle you build through hundreds of small moments. When traffic snarls on your way to work, but you choose patience rather than rage. When a trusted friend unintentionally hurts you, and you choose clarity over confrontation. When life plans crumble, and you choose flexibility over frustration. Each morning you set your intention in advance. Today, I will notice my emotions, pause, and decide before acting. I won't be hijacked by reactivity. That question, what can I control, becomes your daily compass. And you realize, I may not control what happens, but I can always control how I respond. This transforms your life. You shift from being a reactive participant to a deliberate creator of your experience. You aren't emotionally fragile, you're emotionally responsible. Emotions aren't enemies. They're signals that a boundary was crossed, a value was challenged, or an inner need emerged. So instead of burying them or rationalizing them away, you listen, you feel, then choose. And by responding with insight, you don't dull your humanity, you enhance it, you build resilience, you grow trust, you deepen your character. When you begin each day by reinforcing this mindset, today, I respond with intention. I don't react by default. You're not just surviving the day. You're sculpting a life of purpose. So tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes and feel old anger or new anxiety creeping in, don't fight it. Don't bury it. Don't rush past it. Acknowledge the signal. Let it be seen. Then ask, what will I choose to do with this? And choose wisely. This, above all, is Stoic Strength. Calm, grounded, awake to reality, empowered by reason, not overwhelmed by emotion. Coming up next, practice 3, learning from pain and failure. Because failure isn't a guidepost, and in the Stoic path, some of the cleanest wisdom comes from stumbling and choosing to rise again. Previously, we learned how awareness and emotional control shape the way we experience each day. Now, we take one step deeper into the heart of challenge, the uncomfortable zone of failure and hardship. Because this, more than anything, is where real growth begins. There's a reason Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, declared, difficulties are things that show a person what they are. This isn't just elegant wisdom. It's a call to confront what most of us try to avoid: adversity, pain, disappointment. But here's the truth. Nothing strips away the surface and reveals who you really are faster than difficulty. It's easy to act composed when things go well, But who are you when life throws a punch you didn't see coming? Let's look at someone who lived this truth. Arianna Huffington, now known as the founder of the Huffington Post and a symbol of perseverance, began her journey with a mountain of rejection. Her first book, rejected not once, not 5 times, but by 36 publishers. Imagine that. 36 rejections for something she poured her heart into. Most people would have stopped there, taking it as a sign they weren't good enough. But not Arianna. Instead of quitting, she chose to see every rejection as an invitation not to give up, but to improve. She revised her work, strengthened her ideas, and refined her message. And when she launched the Huffington Post years later, critics didn't exactly roll out a red carpet. In fact, many mocked the platform as amateur, saying it wouldn't last. Again, she had 2 choices: react with outrage or respond with resolve. She chose the latter. She didn't scream back. She listened. She absorbed feedback. She focused on building something better, brick by brick, slowly, quietly, and consistently. That's what Stoicism teaches: not to avoid the fall, but to rise with intelligence. Eventually, the Huffington Post became one of the most influential media voices in the world. That wasn't luck. That was resilience. See, failure is never the final word, your response is. Life will test you again and again. You'll lose jobs, face criticism, miss targets, or watch relationships crumble. And in those raw moments, your instinct might be to collapse inward, to ask, why me? But Stoicism flips that script. It encourages a more powerful question. What can I learn from this? That tiny shift from victimhood to inquiry is life-changing. It turns failure into feedback. It transforms pain into fuel. Just like steel is forged in fire, so too is character shaped in difficulty. And it's not about denying how you feel. You'll feel sad, you'll feel angry, you'll feel rejected. That's human. Stoicism doesn't silence those emotions. It acknowledges them and teaches you how not to be ruled by them. You observe them, accept them, and then you act from a place of reason. This is why Marcus Aurelius, emperor and Stoic master, once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, your obstacle isn't separate from your path. It is the path. Whatever you're facing: an unfair situation, a rejection letter, a broken plan may be the very thing guiding you toward the life you were meant to build. And here's the beautiful paradox. The pain that nearly breaks you can also be what builds your resilience. Just like a tree that digs deeper roots after every storm, you grow tougher, wiser, more grounded. So today, instead of resenting failure or fearing discomfort, start embracing it as a teacher. A rejection is just redirection. A mistake is a lesson in disguise. A delay is training for patience. And even if no one sees your growth yet, trust that something powerful is forming under the surface. As you sip your morning coffee or walk into another long day, remind yourself, I've failed before, I've struggled, but every time I've learned, and I'm still here, still growing. That's not weakness. That's strength. Up next, we'll explore how persistence, silent, consistent, and disciplined builds the kind of resilience that no one can take from you. Get ready. The next part may just be the most empowering one yet. Coming from the resilience of failure, we now shift into another powerful mindset that sustains that growth: humility and gratitude. Because once you've picked yourself up, the next step is learning how to stay grounded no matter what happens next. Today, I'll be a little better. That's not just a comforting phrase. It's a philosophy. When you change your mindset from "I failed" to "I'm learning to succeed," you're practicing true stoicism, not to deny your emotions, but to refine them into purpose. Not to cover pain with false optimism, but to use pain as a tool to move forward. And that shift, it begins inside you, quietly. You don't need a grand declaration, just one small, honest choice. So what about you? What have you learned from your hardest moments? If you've ever grown after a setback, share your story in the comments. You never know. Your journey might be exactly the reminder of someone else. Needs to try again tomorrow morning. Tao. Let's open the door to something deeper. Part 4. Humility and Gratitude. Every new morning is a clean page. Not to prove your worth to the world, but to come home to yourself, to listen inward, to notice what's real. Yet in a world that moves faster every day, where success is measured in likes, income, status, and speed, it's all too easy to get pulled away from what really matters. The Stoics knew this. They knew that real happiness doesn't come from adding more, but from recognizing that you already have enough. To live in that kind of awareness requires two inner tools: humility and gratitude. Humility doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means seeing yourself clearly, your strengths, your limits, your place in the vastness of life. A humble person doesn't try to control the uncontrollable. They don't get angry at the rain or try to fix someone else's bad mood. They understand that life isn't a machine to be mastered, but a river to be navigated with wisdom. And that awareness, it frees you from the illusion of control, from ego, from the exhausting race to always be more. Gratitude is the companion to humility. Where humility accepts what is, gratitude celebrates it. It fuels your soul. When you begin the day by recognizing what already exists, before chasing what's missing, your entire perspective shifts. Your spirit lifts. You remember how rich your life already is. That first sip of warm coffee, a soft ray of morning light, a message from someone you love. These things are not small. They are the emotional anchors of a life well lived. Epictetus once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This isn't just poetry. It's a strategy for emotional freedom. When you're grateful for what's already in your hands, you free yourself from the endless grasping for more. And that peace, that's power. Let's make this real. Picture a single mother. Each morning, she wakes before sunrise, preparing breakfast, organizing school bags, checking the time, rushing out the door. Her day is packed with responsibility, challenges, noise. But every morning, before the chaos begins, she takes 2 minutes to open her gratitude journal. She writes, "Thankful for strong legs to walk to work, for my child's laughter this morning, for the job that pays the rent." Is her life perfect? No. Is it peaceful? Not always. But this small ritual, this lens of thankfulness, gives her strength. Gratitude is not a denial of hardship. It is a brave choice to face hardship with grace. It reminds you, you don't need everything to be right in order to feel whole. And what does this have to do with Stoicism? Everything. The Stoics weren't cold or disconnected. They were deeply aware of the human experience. They simply chose to focus their energy where it mattered. Gratitude brings you back to that same clarity. It reconnects you with what's relured: breath, your body, the people around you. In a loud world full of noise and need, it whispers, "This is enough." And from that place of enoughness, we can start making clear, calm decisions. Because once you know what truly matters, it becomes easier to let go of what doesn't. Now that we've explored the power of humility and gratitude, let's move into the next essential principle, the discipline of working in silence. Because growth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, the greatest strength is found in quiet momentum. Let's explore that in part 5. Coming from the deep sense of gratitude we explored, there's a natural next step: learning how to channel that awareness into something powerful: self-control and responsibility. Because once your heart is grounded in gratitude, your hands must be steady with purpose. What we really need to manage in life isn't the chaos outside, but the mindset within, especially how we choose to see and respond to the world around us. One of the most transformative perspectives you can adopt each morning is gratitude. But here's the thing: gratitude isn't just a fleeting moment of appreciation. When practiced deeply, it becomes a lens, a way of truly feeling the value of each breath, each moment, each small joy, and mornings. They are the perfect stage for this quiet act of presence, before the noise sets in, before the emails, the news, the pressure. All you need is 5 minutes. No grand routine, no fancy ritual, just a quiet place, a steady breath, and 3 simple reflections. What are 3 things you're grateful for right now? It might be something obvious like your health, a loved one who made you smile, or the steady progress of a project you care about. Or it might be something quiet and easily missed: the smell of coffee, a patch of sunlight on the wall. The fact that you woke up at all. You won't change the entire world with this practice, but you will change the way you show up in it. Because gratitude doesn't make you passive. It doesn't dull your edge. Quite the opposite, sharpens your attention to what truly matters. When you know that nothing is promised, every moment becomes a chance to live more mindfully, to act more wholeheartedly, to appreciate the extraordinary hidden inside the ordinary. So, if you want to start your morning with the discipline of a Stoic, don't chase a feeling of greatness. Just notice what you already have, smile softly, and enter the day with a full, grateful heart. That's where true strength begins. That's where the mind grows clear. And now, with that mindset in place, let's shift to the next pillar: self-control and self-responsibility. Start your day not by diving into notifications, but by checking in with yourself. Ask the real questions. What kind of person do I want to be today? Will I let the world toss me around like a leaf in the wind? Or will I take the wheel and steer with clarity through whatever comes? In Stoic philosophy, there's no such thing as being doomed by circumstance. There's only choice, conscious or unconscious. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength doesn't come from controlling traffic, coworkers, or emails. It comes from controlling how you respond to them. This isn't just a lofty idea for philosophers in robes. It's a usable, practical tool, a kind of personal armor you wear into your day. Once you understand that your reactions belong to you and no one else, you're no longer a helpless passenger in life's chaos. You're the one holding the oar, deciding which way to row. And yes, in today's hyper-stimulated world, self-control feels harder than ever. Pings from your phone, news that agitates you, social feeds designed to hijack your peace. It's all built to steal your attention. But that's exactly why discipline matters more than ever. Each morning, remind yourself, today, I won't be led by impulse. I will respond, not react. I will choose, not be swept away. Let's make it concrete. Take Sam, a student preparing for a major exam. He doesn't wait for motivation to strike. Instead, he builds a daily routine. He breaks his tasks into chunks. He shows up every day, on time, with focus. When distractions come, like social media or mindless entertainment, he doesn't negotiate. He sets his phone aside, resets his space, and tells himself, "This is on me. No one else can study for me. No one else is responsible for my future." That's self-mastery. Not dramatic, not flashy, but deeply powerful. Each of those tiny decisions is a Stoic victory. Because real strength isn't about emotionless coldness, it's about recognizing emotions as signals, not commands. It's about acting with wisdom instead of reacting with impulse. And now, with that sense of control, we're ready to tackle something equally dangerous, something that quietly drains your energy. Complaining. In the next part, we'll uncover how to reclaim your focus by cutting off the habit of complaint and replacing it with meaningful action. Let's move into that now. Building on our focus and accountability from the last section, let's dive into another vital skill for inner strength: choosing your path with intention. Even when emotions surge, when you feel anger welling up inside, Stoicism doesn't ask you to suppress it. Instead, it challenges you with a gentle but powerful question: where will this emotion take me? Will it help or harm me? That brief moment of inquiry, That pause before reaction marks the very beginning of self-mastery. As you embrace personal responsibility, you begin to see every choice as either a step forward or a step backward. You can hit the snooze button and drift into regret or wake up early. Read a page, meditate for a few moments, or simply enjoy your coffee in silence. No one forces you to do it. But by choosing to, you make a statement. I live with intention. And that intention, that quiet decision, separates someone who lives purposefully from someone merely passing through the day. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be superhuman. It asks only that you don't abandon yourself. Each morning, you can look in the mirror and ask, did I live by my values yesterday? Your answer needn't be perfect, just needs to be honest. That honesty guides your next step. So here's the message I want you to carry. Be disciplined. Be accountable. Because every decision shapes the person you become. Let today's morning moment be your first intentional step. No delay necessary. No need to wait for the perfect opportunity. This moment now is enough to begin. If something about this resonates, if a part of you longs for peace and inner strength, please share it. Have you ever experienced a moment of self-mastery that left you feeling proud? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to start their journey. And now, let's explore the power of presence, the Stoic art of staying rooted in the present moment. Every morning, our minds tend to drift away, replaying yesterday's mistakes, or leaping ahead into future worries. We worry about unfinished tasks, regret missed chances, and fear what's yet to come deadlines, meetings, conversations we haven't even had. Our awareness floats across time past and future while the present moment, the only moment we actually have, is rarely given our full attention. Stoic philosophy reminds us, living truly means focusing on this moment right now, and it's not about slowing down or removing ambition. It's about engaging fully with the moment you inhabit. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, juggling wars, politics, and personal stress wrote, confine yourself to the present. That wasn't idle advice. He wrote it amidst chaos. So when he calls us to presence, he's offering a practical tool, a way to stay grounded, alert, and clear-minded, even when life feels overwhelming. Imagine an artist preparing for her first gallery show. Her mind echoes with doubts. Will anyone understand my message? What if I fail? Was my earlier work better? These what-ifs trip over each other, creating a whirlwind of fear while her brushstrokes lie waiting. But if she chooses presence drops, the worries refocuses on the canvas. One brushstroke at a time, she steps into creation. She brings art into being. And each moment of presence is a victory over internal noise. You don't need to be a painter to live this, whether it's making coffee, brushing teeth, or stepping outside. You can choose presence. Avoid multitasking. Let your mind settle. Feel the temperature of the cup. Taste the warmth. Breathe fully, and let stillness anchor you. When you live in this way, engaging with the moment, you step off the treadmill of perpetual distraction. You become clear. You become steady. You become the author of your day. Coming up next, 6. Focus deeply on the present. We'll explore practical ways to bring your mind home to the now, over and over throughout your day. Let's dive in. Previously, we explored the power of focusing on the present. Now, let's continue that thread with a story that brings the lesson to life, one that reminds us how presence transforms not just what we do, but how we experience doing it. She stood in the quiet of her studio, surrounded by unfinished canvases, each whispering doubt and promise. Instead of allowing her mind to unravel in the mess of questions, what if this isn't good enough? What if people don't understand my vision? What if I'm just wasting time? She returned to what mattered most, her brush, the palette of colors in front of her, and the single empty canvas. With a deep breath, she dipped the brush and began. Stroke by stroke, hue by hue, she melted into the process. She wasn't chasing fame. She wasn't painting to impress. In that moment, She wasn't even thinking about being an artist. She was simply being herself, living the act of creating, absorbed in the moment. And something beautiful happened. Without the noise of fear or the weight of expectation, creativity flowed freely. It became pure, present, real. That's the heart of the Stoic teaching on presence. Being present isn't about rejecting the past or ignoring the future. It's not about shutting yourself off from the responsibilities of tomorrow or pretending yesterday didn't happen. Stoicism never asks you to live without direction. Instead, it tells us this simple truth. Any real change, whether it's breaking a habit, starting a dream, or reclaiming control over your emotions, must begin now. Not when life gets easier. Not once everything is figured out. But in this very moment, as you sit reading these words, breathing, living. What makes presence so powerful isn't the absence of distraction, but your ability to return to the task at hand. In the real world, this translates to meaningful action. A focused employee, one who silences distractions and commits fully to a project, doesn't just finish faster, they finish stronger. Their work carries intention. Their mind feels less cluttered. They feel energized instead of drained because they've stopped leaking energy into worry. Think of a father who pauses during a hectic day to play with his child. He puts down the phone, turns off the TV, and gives those 5 minutes his full attention. He doesn't need an hour. He needs presence. That moment, seemingly small, becomes a memory for his child and a source of quiet pride for him. It builds trust. It nourishes connection. It becomes meaningful, not because it was grand, but because it was real. The Stoics taught that this kind of presence isn't just for meditation cushions or mountaintops. It's for traffic jams, grocery lines, kitchen sinks. When you're washing the dishes, just wash the dishes. When you walk, just walk. When someone speaks to you, don't half listen while crafting your reply. Listen fully. Give them the gift of your presence, because presence, practiced consistently, leads to clarity, and clarity builds momentum. A mind grounded in the now doesn't spiral in regrets or drown in anxiety. It becomes a still, lake-deep, reflective, powerful. And from that stillness, we make better decisions. We respond rather than react. We notice opportunities others miss. Even the smallest action, when done with full presence, becomes a step toward a meaningful life. Brew your coffee with care. Tidy your space with mindfulness. Send a message with sincerity. Each becomes a brick in the foundation of your day. And over time, those small moments accumulate. They become habits. They shape character. They build a life. So the question becomes, now that you understand how presence can transform a moment, how will you begin using it to transform your entire day? This isn't about dramatic life overhauls or grand gestures. It's about starting small but staying intentional, choosing again and again to return to what you're doing, to where you are, to who you are. Not yesterday, not someday, but here and now. That's why in the final part of our journey, we turn to perhaps the most empowering Stoic idea of all: how to create a day, and ultimately a life, that's not just busy, but truly meaningful. A day filled not just with activity, but with purpose, peace, and progress. So take a deep breath. Let go of what you can't control. Feel the ground beneath you. You're exactly where you need to be. Let's explore how to build a life of intention, one day at a time. Creating a meaningful day isn't about having endless free hours or checking every item on your to-do list. It begins from the inside. Each morning, pause and ask yourself, who do I want to be today? What kind of courage will I bring to today's challenges? What values am I holding tight? And what burdens am I willing to release? These aren't sleepy motivational questions. They are the foundation of Stoic practice. Let's look at someone who lived this idea in its rawest form. James Stockdale, a U.S. Navy officer who endured 7 years as a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War. He couldn't influence his city so freedom, food, or privilege were out of his control. But every morning, he exercised one radical choice. He chose how to act. even when hope seemed impossible. Following the Stoic teachings of Epictetus, Stockdale would create a daily plan for survival, focusing not on escape, but on how to preserve his dignity, his honor, and his humanity. Each small action, a purposeful walk, a mental exercise, a moment of disciplined reflection, became a building block. Even in the darkest circumstances, he managed to return home intact. His story shows us a powerful lesson. A meaningful day isn't one that's easy. It's one lived with integrity. It means choosing right over convenient, listening instead of arguing, accepting life's limitations rather than trying to control them, and responding with action rather than falling into complaint. Each deliberate choice becomes a brushstroke in the canvas of your life. When you plan your day, Stoicism invites you to focus on what you can control: your intentions, your attitude, your effort, not on what you can't. A full calendar doesn't have to be overwhelming if you walk through it with purpose rather than panic. It's not the length of the day that matters, it's the quality of how you walk through it. Spend your energy on what truly matters, not just what's urgent. That shift isn't just efficiency, it's inner freedom. Alongside practical planning, cultivate optimism, but not denial. A clear-eyed trust in your capacity to meet whatever comes. Stoicism doesn't teach avoidance of difficulty. It teaches embracing hardship as opportunity for growth. If you see every challenge as a chance to develop character, no day goes to waste. Even bad days become meaningful. At day's end, ask yourself, did I live rightly today? What could I do better tomorrow? This reflection isn't self-criticism. It's a realignment. It helps ensure your tomorrow is ever more aligned with the person you aim to become. Your life is your masterpiece, not built by checking boxes, but by living each day in harmony with values you hold dear. When you craft a meaningful day, you do more than exist, you truly live. This morning, we've journeyed through practical Stoic lessons. We trained our minds to be aware, mastered our emotions, accepted what cannot be changed, and chose our actions with intention. These aren't abstract philosophies, they are actionable habits you can apply every morning to fuel your day with strength and peace. Stoicism isn't about becoming an emotionless automaton. It's about becoming your best self, resilient, intentional, and self-respecting. Each small morning decision you make shapes who you become tomorrow. We'd love to hear from you. Which Stoic principle in this video resonated the most with you? Which morning habit are you already practicing or eager to start? Share your thoughts below. Your story can inspire others on this path. If this video uplifted you, please like it, share it with someone who might need a thoughtful morning reminder, and subscribe so you won't miss the next chapter of inner strength through Stoic insight. See you in the next video. It's already waiting at the end of this screen, ready to guide you deeper into your journey of reason, resilience, and meaningful living.